Hey guys, it's Hire, and today we're going to be talking about how to make a fighting game. So I'm going to make a battle game between Frank and the Wizard Toad called Frank versus the Wizard Toad. The idea behind this game is that it's a two-player game where you play with a friend, and one of you gets to play as the Wizard Toad, and one of you gets to play as Frank, and you try to see who can defeat the other in a magical battle. Now I've already added Frank and the Wizard Toad in. You can add whatever sprites you want by coming down to choose a sprite. And I put them on this kind of spooky fantasy themed woods backdrop. When you're making a game as complicated as a fighting game, it's really important to do some pre-planning. So I did my pre-planning in a Google Doc, but a lot of the time I'll also just write this on a piece of paper. So I have my two characters, the Wizard Toad and Frank, and I wanted to decide the amount of health they have and the moves they can do. So for Wizard Toad, he has 80 health because he's kind of small, he's not as strong, but he has three really cool moves. So he can throw a fireball that causes between 0 and 50 points of damage, it randomizes. He can summon a fly that attacks Frank and does between 0 and 40 points of damage, and he can do a freeze spell which is 0 to 30 points of damage, and it freezes Frank so he misses the next turn. The third spell, this freeze spell, can only be used one time during the game. Now, Frank, on the other hand, has 100 points because he's a big guy, very strong. He has three moves, Slam, Throw, and Rampage. You'll notice that the upper end of point damage is only 30 on the two standard moves, but the lower end is 20. So you're going to get more consistent damage, but you're not going to get the really big hits in with him. And then the rampage is 20 to 50 points, and you can only do this once per game. Once we get this built up, we might end up changing some of these numbers to try to balance gameplay, maybe make the game last a little bit longer, but these are going to be our starting points. So if we come back into Scratch, I have the Wizard Toad and I have Frank, and they are ready to get started. So let's build up the Wizard Toad's first attack. I'm going to actually move these guys a little higher on the screen so there's space for buttons below them. So for Wizard Toad, he needs 3 different buttons that are going to have each of the names of his spells on them. So I'm going to come in to choose a sprite and then paint. And for the first spell, I'm going to call this Fireball. I want my text to be black for this. So we'll set the text to black. And I want it to be, decently sized and right in the middle. I want it to line up with the origin. That's going to help a lot. Now you can see over here, it's really hard to actually click on it because I'm trying to click on the letters. So I am going to create a box to go behind it. Don't want this box to be black. I want it to be the color of Frank's cape, I think, or the Wizard Toad's cape. So I'm going to come into the Wizard Toad and use the eyedropper tool to grab that purple color. And then I can fill the purple color in there and then send it to the back so the word Fireball is in front. Get that all lined up. That looks pretty good, but I do think I want it just a little bit smaller. I like the way that looks. All right, so Frank has his the Wizard Toad has his Fireball attack ready to go. I'm going to move that so it's next to Frank, and I'm going to name it Fireball. It's really important to take a little bit of time to name your backgrounds, name your sprites, name your costumes, so that it's really easy for you as you're writing your code. So, when we click the green flag, we want the Fireball button to show up. That's really all we need to do for when the green flag is clicked. That's just going to make it when we reset our game, Fireball shows up. Then we want to make it so that when this sprite is clicked, it causes a fireball to be shot. So I want the button to disappear because I don't want it to be there anymore. And then I'm going to have it cast a fireball. And the way we can do that is by using these broadcast messages. I'm going to call this Fireball. You don't actually see broadcast messages, but it allows me to kind of talk in between all of the sprites. So since Fireball is being cast, I want to find a fireball. I know that we don't have a good one, but we do have a sun. So I'm going to use the sun as the fireball. I'm going to set the size to maybe 40. So it's kind of like a nice size. I like the way that looks. Oh, I accidentally clicked on the fireball because I was trying to move it. When this sprite is clicked, sometimes you have to separate them so you can actually move things around for yourself. Okay. With the fireball, I'm going to actually rename this fireball text and call the sun fireball. We don't want this to show up when we start the game. We want it to be hiding the whole time until we receive the message fireball. Once we receive the message fireball, we want it to show, and I want to make sure it starts at this spot right next to like the wizard's hands. So I'm going to tell it to go to that current position, show, and then I want this to kind of go to the middle of Frank's chest. I'm trying to decide if I like their positions. You know what? I might do. I did it again. I told you it's a problem. I'm going to separate that so I can move it up here. I think I'd rather have the 3 attacks above his head so it looks more like these guys are standing on the ground. I like that a lot better. So we'll do the fireball tech. I'm going to replace where the fireball is. I want it to show. So I want it to start between his hands. So go to that position and show, and then I want it to kind of glide to the middle of Frank's chest. So I'm going to have it glide there, and then I'm going to have it hide. I'm going to have it wait like 0.5 seconds and then hide. So that way it looks like it's being thrown. So let's click on it to see how it looks. That's a pretty good looking fireball. And when I click on the word fireball, it doesn't do anything because I haven't reconnected it. When I click on the word fireball, it causes a fireball to be thrown. There we go. That's our first attack. But there's no damage. There's no health points. We don't have any of that. So let's go ahead and start adding some health in. So where it says my variable, I'm going to rename that to, let's do wizard toad health. And I do want to click this box so that's showing up here. I'm going to have this, I think it'll look really nice right here below the wizard toad. Then I'm going to make a new variable and call it Frank health. And I'm going to drag Frank's health right below him. When we start the game, I want the wizard toad, so when I press the green flag, I want the wizard toad to have 80 health. And with Frank, when we press the green flag, I want him to have 100 health. I also want Frank to be visible. I'm doing these things because I know they're probably going to show up at some point. I want him to show, and I want him to be standing right there when I click the green flag. With the wizard toad, I want him to be standing right where he is. And I want the wizard toad to be showing. So now we have 80, 100, and fireball is visible. Now, the fireball hasn't actually done any damage to Frank. So let's put here at the very end that it's going to change Frank's health by a random number. And you'll remember we had initially decided that fireball is going to cause between 0 and 50 points of damage. So I'm going to have it pick a random number between 0 and negative 50 points of damage. So it's going to choose a random number somewhere between 0 and negative 50. So if we actually test it out, when we click fireball, it's going to hit, and then you can see that Frank's health didn't get changed at all. Let's try it again, see if that works. And it went down to 53 that time, so it was that was 47. The first time, the toad got 0. It's like it didn't even hit. Maybe I'll make this 1. So that way it always does damage, it's just not always very good. Interesting. Did you see how that time it didn't? Okay. We're just going to check it a few times to make sure that it always reduces his health. There we go. Now, we have it defaulting so that the wizard toad always gets to go first, which doesn't necessarily feel fair to me. So maybe we should set up You know what? We'll worry about that later. Let's keep going. We're going to make it so the wizard toad always goes first. And then we'll decide from there how we're going, if we want to change that later. It kind of makes sense the wizard toad goes first because he is weaker and he has like long distance attacks. So the fireball, when we show it, when we click it, it causes this to happen. And then we want Frank to get a turn to play. So after the fireball is done, we're going to set up an event called Frank's turn. So on Frank's turn, we want Frank to get to attack. It's Frank's turn now. So let's go ahead. I'm going to duplicate this, but it's not going to be fireball anymore. It's going to be Frank's first attack is slam. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the text to slam. And I want it to be a color from Frank's outfit, so let me go to Frank. I'm going to grab, I kind of like this blue. And we will fill it with that blue and move the word slam back to the middle. Okay, so Frank has a slam button now. Oops, and it's causing fireball. Okay. We'll put slam up here above Frank's head. He's much taller, so we're going to have to kind of scoot them in up high. Maybe we'll make the wizard toad a little smaller. What if we take the wizard toad down to like 80? Let's see, does fireball still come from the right place? It does. Okay. For slam, we want, when we click it, for it to do slam. Right now we're going to have them all show at the same time. We're going to end up messing with this later, so don't worry. Just keep going with me. We want this to broadcast slam. Now, we haven't told anybody what slam does, but we're going to tell Frank what slam does. Because Frank has all of these fun costumes. So I'm going to rename them. This one is standing. I'm going to call this one looking. We probably won't use this one. I'm going to call this one, this is going to be our slam, and this will be our throw costume. Okay, so when the game starts, we want Frank to be wearing the standing costume. But when Frank receives slam, I want him to change into that slam costume. And then I want him to wait 1 second. Then I want him to change back to his normal costume of standing. And I want him to do damage. So we're going to say change the wizard toad's health. We said that slam is going to drop it between 20 and 30 points. So we're going to change the wizard toad health by a random number between -20 and -30 points. At which point this turn is over. Let's take a look at how does it look. And the wizard toad's health dropped. And then it's the wizard toad's turn. So let's create a new message that says wizard toad's turn. So now it's back to the wizard toad. When it's the wizard toad's turn, we want our buttons to show back up. Let's kind of see how this is going. So we do fireball, hits him. We do slam. Now the fireball is back, so we can attack again. Very good, very good. And it looks like our health is dropping. Things are going very well so far. Let's add another attack for our toad. So we're going to duplicate this. Our toad's next attack is going to be summon fly. So let's change this one to fly. We'll change our text to fly. Get it all lined up in the middle. And try to move it. I told you, you got to be careful. Got to separate these. We're going to put the fly above his head. And we're going to set it up so that when we click the sprite, instead of casting fireball, we cast fly. Now, just like the fireball, I do want to add a fly object. And I know from experience with Scratch that there is no fly, but this frog has a fly, and I can delete the frog. Whoa. And take this fly and use it for my needs. What do we think? Is that a good size against? I think that's perfect. And I'll line this up in the center. There's our fly. I don't need either of these costumes, so I'm going to just call this fly, and we're going to call this fly. Again, seems weird, but having all the words and everything, oh, this is supposed to be fly text, and then this is fly. Changing everything really does make it so much easier in the long run. All right, so we have our fly, who we don't want to see at the beginning of the game, right? When we click the green flag, we want him to be gone. But when we get the message fly, we want to show up. Let's have the fly show up at its hands again. Go to that position, and we want it to show. Then we want it to come to the middle of his face. So I'm going to have it glide there, and then I kind of want it to spin in a circle like it's attacking. So I'm going to use a repeat block to get it to spin in a circle. Now I know there's 360 degrees in a circle, so if I'm going to repeat 10 times, I need to do 360 divided by 10. That means 36 times. So let's just click this to see how it looks. And it attacked his face. And then I'm going to wait 0.5 seconds and have my little fly hide. Okay, let's see how the fly goes. That was a pretty good attack. Now we actually need to, as we did earlier, we need to have it change Frank's health. And the fly can do between 0 and 40 points of damage. So we'll pick random and and we're going to do 1 to 40 because we wanted to always do some sort of damage. And remember, it has to be negative because we're trying to take away health, not give him health. But you'll notice the fireball text is still there, which is not what we want. So we're going to come into here and we're going to tell the fireball text, when you receive the message fly, you need to hide. That way it looks good. Let's hit the green flag and see. So when we hit fly, does a fly attack, does damage, and last thing we need to do is tell Frank it's his turn. Like, hey Frank, your turn to go. Okay, I think we've made it far enough that we can do pretty quickly Frank's next attack, which in this case is a throwing attack. So for Frank's next attack, we're going to duplicate this guy again. We're going to call this throw text. This one's slam text. So for our throw text, as always, we'll come in and change it. Get it all lined up real beautiful. We got to come back in here and separate these out so I can move it. Lots of little steps to remember, but they get more natural the more you do them. And we're going to set this up so that when this sprite is clicked, we are going to send the message throw. Now, for this one, I think what I want to have happen is I want Frank to physically throw a rock. So I'm going to add a new object of a rock. It's a little too big. Let's try 40. Maybe 50. There we go. And I want Frank to go into the throwing costume. I'm going to put the rock in his hand like he's getting ready to throw it. So when we send the message throw, we want this rock to show up. We want it to be hiding all other times. So again, we're going to do hide on the green flag and show when I receive throw. We want it to go to his hand. We want it to glide. I'm going to have it bonk the wizard toad on the head. I'm going to have it wait like half a second there so that the person can really see what's happened. And I'm going to have it hide again. And then last thing I need to make it do has to do damage to the wizard toad. The throw is also between 20 and 30 points of damage for our random numbers. So we're going to go -20 to -30 for this throw. So let's see how it looks. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to click on throw. Frank doesn't change his costume. So we better go to Frank and tell him, hey, Frank, when you receive throw, can you please change your costume to throw? And then we're going to make this wait half a second. So that way it looks like Frank is holding before it goes anywhere. And then we'll have Frank change his costume, wait half a second, and then finally switch back to his normal standing. All right, let's see how this looks. Throw. There we go. Looks like he threw it. Last thing we have to do on this is tell the Wizard Toad, hey, Wizard Toad, it's your turn. Now that we have our standard attacks out of the way, let's decide how we're going to make it. I'm going to separate these while we're talking and just move them down. How we want to make it fair on who gets to go first. I think because the Wizard Toad has more powerful attacks, but Frank has more health, I'm okay with it being like a coin flip almost on who gets to go first. So let's create a sprite. I wonder if we have a good coin sprite. I bet we can make our own little coin sprite with a ball. I'm going to make a custom one. Oops. Let's start by drawing a circle. Let's do a nice big one. We'll put this at 0, 0. Okay, so that's probably a little too big. We'll make it a little smaller. Okay, and let's see, I don't want it to be black in the middle. I want it to be white in the middle. So there we go. And then I would like a black outline of my coin just to make it look nice. No wonder it's not changing the appearance at all. Okay, and then let's see, I'm going to do Frank's face, copy it, paste it, move it to the center. So there's Frank. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to get rid of Frank's face. And I'm going to try to grab just the Wizard Toad's. I'm going to probably have to do the Wizard Toad's whole body just because of the way he's made. Shrink this down, put it in the middle of the coin. And then, let's see, I'm going to do a custom. So when a coin flips, usually kind of, you almost see like a flat side. So I'm making the flat side now. Okay. So this coin is going to be the very first thing that shows up on our screen. And when we click it, we want it to like spin and then randomly decide who gets to go first. So we're going to say when our green flag is clicked, we are going to show. Then we'll click on the coin and have it spin. When this sprite is clicked, we're going to have it spin. So we're going to do switch to next costume. And we're going to have this repeat a random number of times. So that way it ends up either on costume 1 or costume 3. Now the problem with this is that it could potentially end up on costume 2 or costume 4. So I think, let's just kind of see what this looks like. It's not looking great yet. Let's add a wait in and see how that looks. That's way too slow. What about 0.2 seconds? There we go, getting closer. Sometimes it lands on the side, but if it lands on the side, we can just click it again. How about we do this? We will say, if, after this happens, if the costume number, this is a really cool part. We can do if costume number is equal to a couple of different things. So we'll say if the costume number is equal to 1, then we're going to broadcast the message, Frank's turn, because the first costume is Frank. Not Fly, Frank's turn. We'll duplicate this. We'll say if the costume number is equal to 2, then we broadcast Wizard Toad's turn. And finally, we'll say if the costume number is equal to, oh no, this will be 3, sorry. If it's equal to 2, we're going to go to the next costume. So let's see, if it's costume 2 and then it goes to the next costume, that brings us to number 3. So we'll say that that's Wizard Toad's turn. And then last option, if it equals 4, we go to the next costume and it's Frank's turn. So let's test it out. That looks really good. So it's going to randomize. Oh, yeah, it's going to randomize who we get. Maybe we should do this between like 5 and 15. So that way, at the very least, it looks like it's spinning a little while. There we go. Okay. Now, let's come into the text and tell them that, hey, instead of showing, when the green flag is pressed, we actually want you all to be hiding. And I don't want you to show until you receive that it's your turn. We're going to do that for all of them. I actually want you to be hiding. I need to reconnect these things. Did I reconnect everybody? Then same with Frank. We're going to say, nope, I actually want you to be hiding. And I don't want you to show until you receive that it's Frank's turn. Same with you. I want you to be hiding and I don't want you to show until you receive that it's Frank's turn. Let's see how this looks. You gotta click this to spin it. It's his turn. So his stuff Wizard Frog stuff showed up, and then we do want that to hide. So let's have it wait like 0.5 seconds, and then we'll have it hide. Okay, let's see how this works. Frank's turn. There we go. And Frank's attacks show up. Then we do slam. He did his damage. Oh, but throwing is still showing. So it's a lot of little stuff, guys. In games like this, you're going to spend a lot of time doing the little stuff control. So like we want this to hide when it receives that the slam is going. So I do slam, everybody disappears. I do a fly, does my fly attack. I'll do, oh, I meant to do a throw. Fireball. Oh, because see, the fly didn't disappear. This is what I'm telling you. You got to do a lot of testing. We're going to do fly, hide. Or when I receive, not fly, fireball. We want this to hide. We'll do throw to test it. See, slam stayed up that time. There's lots of little things. Okay. Now that we have everything working pretty well exactly like it's supposed to, except for that I didn't click the one thing I meant to. There we go. Now this is looking better. Fireball's working. Slam is working. Everything's working. Okay. The Wizard Toad health is negative. That means it's time to start thinking about the next step. We still have these special spells that we're going to add in later, but right now I would like to set it up for, I'm going to hide this guy, the end game, when somebody wins. So, we're going to go into Wizard Toad. I think we can set it up in here. We're going to tell it when I receive the start of somebody's turn, either guy. We'll start with when I receive Frank's turn, we want to check to see if one of these characters is dead. So we're going to do two less thans. We're going to say if Frank's health is less than 1 or if the Wizard Toad health is less than 1. And that's because 0 is less than 1. So we're going to say if Frank's health is less than 1 or if the Wizard Toad's health is less than 1 at the start of Frank's turn, then Frank doesn't actually get a turn. The game is over. And there are two possible outcomes. If Frank's health is less than 1, that means that Wizard Toad wins. Alternatively, if the Wizard Toad's health is less than 1, that means that Frank wins. These are the two possible outcomes of our game. Now we need to go in and tell everybody what to do when one of these messages is sent. So let's start in the Fireball text. We're going to say, hey, if you receive Wizard Toad wins, then I need you to hide. You don't get to be here. We're going to do the exact same thing for when Frank wins. We'll do that for all of these. Wizard Toad wins, and Frank wins. Wizard Toad wins. It gets a little, you have to be very careful to make sure that you do all of these things correctly, because one error is enough to really mess up a lot of the game. Wizard Toad wins, and Frank wins. Okay, so right now the Wizard Toad is only checking for this at the start of Frank's turn. So we also want to duplicate that and have him check at the start of the Wizard Toad turn. So either way, he's checking to see if somebody has won. Now, if somebody has won, we have to tell him what to do. So I'm going to say, if the Wizard Toad wins, I'll set up Wizard Toad wins on this guy. I want him to come to the center of the screen. No, what do I want him to do? Let's see. I think I'm just going to have the screen say that Wizard Toad wins. So I just duplicated this. I'm making it so that it says Wizard Toad wins. Now that's very hard to read. Do not despair. I won't be leaving it like that. Let's try putting it over here. I'm going to make it big. I'm going to put it up across the top. I like to line it up at the center. Still hard to read. So we're going to grab Wizard Toad's special color because I like to use consistent colors throughout my games whenever possible. And on this backdrop, we'll just add a nice box for the Wizard Toad winning. I don't think it's centered. Just put that down there. There we go, Wizard Toad wins. And let's duplicate this to make Frank wins. I'm going to just change the text to Frank wins. Change the size of this box. These both lined up on the origin. And get those back up to the top. So Frank wins, Wizard Toad wins. Okay, there we go. Now that we have those, we can say when I receive Wizard Toad wins, we're going to switch the backdrop to Wizard Toad wins. And we want to make sure that when we start the game, we switch the backdrop to the woods. Let's see, do we have anything fun for my little frog to do? Not much. Maybe we'll make it so that Frank looks like he's collapsed. Yeah, we'll have him look sideways. So we'll say, when Frank receives that the Wizard Toad has won, poor Frank, we'll say, hey, if the Wizard Toad wins, Frank, You're going to switch your costume so that you're looking to the side. Put your hands on your hips, look real sad. Maybe we can make our wizard toad say yay. That looks pretty good if you ask me. Then we hit our green flag and we're ready to restart. Frank gets to go first that time. I do think I want to make this show a little bit longer because I realized I couldn't really see who won that coin toss. Okay, Frank. Let's do what happens if Frank wins. So if Frank wins, we'll say when Frank wins, when I receive that Frank has won. We have to switch the backdrop to Frank wins. And maybe we can make Frank, wonder if we can do like a happy version of this. What if we take that and just put his head on there? Yay! Like, can we give him a cute little smile? Sorry, Frank, we're gonna ungroup your face. Trying to get you to draw you a little smile. Let's make this smaller. Yay! Okay, that's pretty cute. We'll call this win. We'll switch his costume to win. So when Frank wins, that's what happens. Frank wins, he smiles. Let's test to see if it works. We'll flip our coin. Frog gets to go first. I'll do fireball. Frank is at 95. I'll do throw. Fireball. Slam. Fly. Ooh, I wonder who's going to happen. Oh, he has only 3 left. If the fireball's lucky. The wizard toad wins. Yay! Guys, it works. All right, if you want your game to be done here, you totally can be done. I'm going to keep going because I really want to add some special attacks for some of my characters. So I'm going to make these show just because I want them to be visible so I can move them around. I want to duplicate one of these. Let's just duplicate it. I'm going to put it up here. And instead of fly, this is going to be my freeze spell. I just want you to have an idea of how to do special attacks if it's something that you want to do. So we're going to change the name of this to freeze. And I do want to change the color since it's the special attack. We're going to turn this into this nice yellow that the toad has. Okay, our freeze spell, you can tell it's special because it has a different color on it. Let's see, X is negative 144, 144, negative 144. Gotta line them up real nice. Okay, we can reconnect these because I'm not worried about them anymore. We're going to say when the sprite is clicked, we're going to broadcast freeze. We want to send the message freeze. Now, I do want to do this as another visual attack, so let's get a snowflake or something nice and icy cold. And that's way too big. Let's try like 20, maybe a little bigger. Okay. And again, as per usual, I'm going to have it come from the frog's hands. We'll say when the green flag is clicked and when freeze is clicked, we know exactly what we want to have happen. We want it to hide, we want it to show. So when freeze, when it goes to freeze, we're going to have it show, and then let's have it glide to Frank's body and get big. So it's originally so its current size is only 30. When it gets to Frank, I think I want it to get to like 80. Let's see how that looks. I want it to look like it's like Frank is frozen, like he can't move or do anything while this is there. Then we're going to have it do its damage, just like we have been. We're going to say change Frank's health. The freeze does 0 to 30 points of damage. And we decided to do between -1 and -30 points of damage. But here's where it gets fun. Frank doesn't get a turn. We're going to skip Frank's turn. So instead of broadcasting Frank's turn, we get to broadcast Wizard Toad's turn. So the Wizard Toad gets a turn. Now, freeze can only be used one time. I don't want it to be usable multiple times. So I'm going to make a blank costume that it can switch to. So that way it disappears. So we'll say after we click it, we're going to switch it to costume 2. And then when the green flag is clicked, we want it to go back to costume 1. So let's see how this looks. We'll do a throw. Let's do the freeze. We still get to go again. We'll do the fly attack. We need to tell this guy to wait. Let's maybe wait like 3 seconds and then hide. Like after he's all good. Throw. Freeze. Fireball. And then he goes back. And there we go. The Wizard Toad gets his special attack. So he gets 2 attacks in a row. Now Frank's special attack is a rampage, where he's going to get up to 50 points of damage in one go. That's a lot for Frank. So for Frank, we're going to do the same thing we did earlier, where we separate these and make them visible so we can move things around as we need. We're going to duplicate this throw text. Oh, I'm going to put this up here. And this will be rampage. Now Frank's rampage, same as earlier. I want this to be a special color too, so I'm going to go to Frank and grab, let's do maybe green? I like green. All right, we've got our rampage button. Now the problem with Frank is he's a little taller, so we just kind of have to scoot everything up. I'm wondering if I should put the special attack at the top. This is all, you get to make your own decisions about this. There is no right or wrong answer. Yours game doesn't actually have to have the same visuals as mine at all. Make it look however you want it to look. Yeah, I like that better on top. I'm going to do the same thing for my other guy real quick. Just to make it look a little better. All right. Boom. There we go. Fireball. Oh, I did not reconnect all of the text. If you haven't figured out, guys, it's a lot of trying and failing and trying again and failing again. We haven't actually set up Rampage. Let's set up Rampage. This is our last step. As soon as this is done, our game is complete, which is super exciting. So we're going to broadcast Rampage. And we want these guys, when the broadcast of Rampage is received, we want it to hide. Just so that way we don't have to see these texts. Okay, we click Rampage, we send the message Rampage. Let's tell Frank what to do during a Rampage. I'm going to do a lot of the same stuff. I'm going to have him go to, I think I'm going to have him put his hands up. Hold on. So when he receives Rampage, we'll have him put his hands up into throw. And I'm going to have him glide across the screen to here. This is why it does so much damage, right? Like that's the idea. And then I'm going to have him switch to the slam animation. And then I'm going to have him Stay there for a second or half a second or whatever. And then I'm going to have him switch his costume back to standing. And then go back to his original spot, which is, according to this over here, 149 and negative 34. We'll just have him glide right back into position. So let's see how that looks. Very good. Now we have to do damage. As per usual, we're going to come in and change the Wizard Toad's health by a random number, but this time it's going to be between 20 to 50 points, which is a lot of possible damage if you only have 80 points total. So we're going to go negative 20 to negative 50. And then we'll tell Wizard Toad that it's his turn. Just like the special attack up here, we're going to add a blank costume that we'll have it switched to after we do the rampage. So we'll make sure when the green flag is pressed, we switch to costume 1. And then after rampage, we switch to costume 2, so it's not an option anymore. And so long as this works, we'll be good to go. I'm going to do a fly attack. Oh, freeze didn't hide. I just need to tell it when it receives. Fly to hide. Slam. Let's do fly again. It's hiding. Oh, did you notice there how the fly went behind Frank instead of on top of his face? It's because when I picked up Frank, he came to the very front of this screen. So I'm just going to have him go to the back layer. And I did that by doing this and just clicking on it, and it moves him. Let's do slam. Let's do fly again. Let's do a throw. Must not have reconnected. Throw. Throw. Rampage is still there. So when I do throw, it has to hide. Do freeze. Do fireball. Let's do rampage. Frank wins! And he has his little happy face on. All right, we're going to check one more time, but I think we're there. I'm going to start the game with a rampage. I'm going to start a game with a freeze. I'm going to do throw. Fireball. Slam. Frank wins again. So you can see some of our numbers might not be well balanced, especially if Frank goes first. So maybe we need to change how much damage he can do in each attack, or maybe we need to change how much health they have. Like maybe instead of just 80 points, maybe I want to give the Wizard Toad like 200 points of health, and maybe I want to give Frank like 250 or something like that, just to try to keep things a little more even and balanced as we play, and to give you a few more rounds of play with your friends. But that's essentially how you do it. I'm just checking everything. Is it working? Oh, I should have done a slam there. Now you'll just go back and forth and play until somebody's out. You can add as many attacks as you want. The more attacks you have, the more interesting the game is because it gives you more options. But that is how you make a two-person fighting game. Thanks for watching. I hope you make an awesome game, and I'll see you in the next one.